So I had been thinking about doing a video regarding the last year at Marienbad card game, and it so happened my wife was helping a friend of ours clean out their parents' house and going through their archives and stuff. And she came home with a pile of vintage newspapers, and I opened one of them up and landed right on an interview with director Alain Resnais, the director of last year at Marienbad, this very rare, previously unknown to me, interview with Renier. It's from 1963. It's from the Daily News. And it's Bemedaled Renier is a Bundle of Charm by Wanda Hale. He had made Hiroshima Mon Amour, and he had just released Muriel, and it was having a run at the Plaza Theater, and he took her to lunch at Sardi's. And, it doesn't actually break tremendous new ground necessarily, as a scholarly piece or whatever, and it certainly seems he charmed Wanda considerably. This is my third visit to New York and my first time at the famous theatrical restaurant. I couldn't return to Paris without going to Sardi's, not again. So instead of lunch at a Greenwich Village bistro, Nidix, chock full of nuts, or the Automat, I am here at Sardi's with you. Looking over the menu, Renier says, I want a typical American meal, things I can't get in Paris. His choice was clam chowder, broiled bluefish, boiled potato, and dessert of ice cream and a large cup of coffee, no cocktail, no wine. Renier went to Paris to study dramatics and get into films. For 2 years, he tried acting, and realizing his limitations, he checked out and became a film editor. A producer friend asked if he would like to try doing a documentary, and he jumped at the chance, even though he had some fear and trepidation, he admits, but the film was Night and Fog, which is a classic. Renier doesn't feel that his time was wasted on acting. That experience, he declares, helps him understand his actors and sympathize with them, and he feels he's a better director for having been an actor. No wonder his actors give excellent performances. This soft-spoken Frenchman with a delicious sense of humor could charm the pearl from an oyster. No doubt he charms his cast into doing exactly what he wants them to do. This is an example of, keeping the object itself, not necessarily on microfiche, but the actual tactile object, allows for all sorts of discovery that you couldn't get, in a Google search by an algorithm giving you proximity. This was then. This is a time capsule, and it is an amazing time capsule, and it conveys within the space of its few pages the complexity of life in this country and around the world. In particular, this issue and many of the others that you brought home, I'm kind of saving the big reveal for the end, but there's even notable things along the way as we get towards the front page. But this was buried in the back of an otherwise quite remarkable issue. We're going to get to this in a bit. Let me just go backwards a little bit. Other things that we have in here. Here's Betty Davis, William Holden, and Julie Newmar, the Hollywood section. Oh yes, here's the theater directory. This is what was playing on Broadway in New York at the time. We have Uta Hagen and Arthur Hill in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. We've got Kirk Douglas in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. My parents saw that, and they said they had to go walk around the block afterwards, kind of get their bearings after seeing that. Paul Ford, Maureen O'Sullivan, and Orson Bean in Never Too Late. Zero Mostel in Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. Van Heflin, Sidney Blackmer, and Larry Gates in A Case of Libel at the Longacre. Larry Gates played my dad in Wilderness at the Ford Theater in 1970. And of course the movie listings. Here's Jackie Gleason and Steve McQueen in Soldier in the Rain. Radio City Music Hall has Lee Remick and James Garner in The Wheeler Dealers. But also at the top of the page is The House Lights Are Dark as the theater mourns. And further back, it's just incredible story here. 10th woman found strangled in the Bay State. Lawrence, Massachusetts, November 24th. A woman Sunday school teacher was found strangled here, the 10th strangling victim in eastern Massachusetts in the last year. She was identified as Joanne M. Graff, 22. She was found dead around noon with a nylon stocking and part of a leotard legging wrapped around her neck. I'll spare you the gory details. The Essex County District Attorney says it looks like the others. It's the Boston Strangler. They hadn't caught Albert DeSalvo yet. Moscow fan told off. This is the Voice of the People section, the letters to the editor. This letter is in response to one in the news of November 14th, signed Hammer and Sickle. If this character thinks communism is so great, why doesn't he go join Hedgehog Nikita in his pig pen? He did prove one thing, though, that in this country it is possible for even such trash to express their warped views without fear of reprisal from the government. Otherwise, I'm in total agreement with the news editorial declaration that the only good communist is a dead communist. Let's get to the lead story here. It's condolences from around the world, including from the sister-in-law of the president of Vietnam, who had just been assassinated, and she's sending condolences to the United States, as is everybody else around the world. Pope is citing the capacity for hatred. The Episcopal bishop here of the Protestant Episcopal Church of the U.S. says we are all sharing in the guilt for this. They are referring to the assassination of John F. Kennedy, but the paper, this paper is actually from a couple days later. It is the assassination of Lee Harvey Oswald, live on television in front of the nation. The country saw a live assassination on television. It wasn't enough, trauma to go through losing the president 2 days earlier. But so you've got the TV section. What's on TV? TV viewers see a murder as they mourn the president by Ben Gross. It was unbelievable. Probably the most dramatic event ever recorded by live television. The fatal shooting in Dallas Municipal Building of the man charged with the assassination of President Kennedy. Millions of viewers saw this act yesterday as they were tuned in prior to the transfer of the murdered chief executive's body from the White House to the Capitol. In all its history, TV had not brought to Americans a day so compounded of violence and sorrow. While the television audience awaited with heavy hearts the solemn ceremony in Washington, suddenly at 12:20 p.m., the cameras of NBC and CBS switched to the Texas city to pick up the transfer of Lee Oswald by the police to the county jail. Then suddenly, as the prisoner came into view, a man stepped forward, lunged towards Oswald. A shot was heard and the prisoner crumpled to the floor. There were shouts, yells, and screams. He's shot. Detectives and policemen with guns drawn. Complete pandemonium prevailed. On the inside front page are less familiar shots of Jack Ruby. Here's Oswald on a stretcher. And again, I can't convey to you, in words, but maybe you can get in pictures, in sense of how different an experience it is to hold this object in my hands than it is to look at it on a computer screen or on any kind of screen. Jack Ruby, a real guys and dolls type. They interview Janet Consorto, a stripper, who says Ruby's the type of person who would do this to make everybody like him and go down in history. He likes to be the center of attention. His sister says Ruby was more upset over Kennedy's death than the death of his own father. Easy to believe he'd do something like this. Some more shots of Oswald on the stretcher. full-page ads, huge ads by major retailers mourning the loss of President Kennedy. Turkeys at 33 cents a pound. Go to the sporting section and attendance about normal. Life does go on. They came with mixed emotions, but they came. That was one newspaper that she got. Here's another one. We carry on. November 26, 1963. Good Lord. You know, they got the newspaper out. They got it out and they got it into people's hands. The country torn apart like that. But here's Johnson leads the mourning. This is a few years later. Nixon insists he won't resign. GOP senators bid him to quit. Senator Rhodes is going to back impeachment. This is August 7th, 1974. Actually, this is the day before. Nixon admits that he hid facts. He tried to bar the FBI from probe. He expects to be impeached. Demands to resign are rising in the Republican Party. Anyway, that was a fine for a Sunday afternoon. More to come.